If you feel like you have a hard time going from a drawing to a painting, truly getting rid of all the outlines while avoiding things blending together or looking really flat, I think there are two key aspects you need to work on. Number one, I think it's time to truly understand the geometry you're trying to render. So if it comes to portraits, for instance, it's a good idea to really get into knowing this kind of things. So truly understanding how to build the shape overall, and then understanding where all the planes on the face and the head are coming from, and what their true angles are. And the second thing to work on is understanding your lighting and how your object reacts to it at different angles. I want to tell you about the second aspect, where you already somewhat understand your shape, but now you don't really understand what to do with all of this, you know? It's all gonna be skin color. How do I distinguish between all the parts of it so they wouldn't blend into a flat spot? Well, recently I thought of a pretty interesting way to do this. I call it shading reference balls, or lighting rule balls. Still thinking on the title, but the point is, before shading our character right here, this head, I will create a ball and I will think through all of my lighting for the scene right on this ball. It specifically needs to be a ball because what's interesting about balls is that they include every possible angle of the surface that we can see on a flat painting. So all of the angles are in here, absolutely every possible angle. Now this is literally a flashy ball with hair. This is not going where I was expecting. So let's instead make the ball white. I think it will work much better. And now I'll work on the first lighting, and it will be ambient light. Generally the ambience of the environment that the object is in, it will have some kind of non-directional lighting everywhere. The only direction it may have is that it's usually brighter at the top and darker at the bottom. So let's say we're gonna have ambience kind of cold, maybe like this. And I'll make the ball generally dark because this is the basic ambience. It shouldn't make everything too bright right away, so it should be relatively dark. I wanna have a pretty contrast situation for my lighting. It can literally be something like this. It doesn't have to have any higher contrast or anything. Things frequently go pretty subtle like this. Next, I'll add the main light source, so some kind of key light, as it's usually called. Let's say it's gonna be somewhat like this, so from the back like that, and we'll make it like literally white. I think it doesn't have to be any other color. Also, it's a good time, I guess, to change the background color. So I think the best color to choose for that, it would be whatever we have as an ambient light, and this is feeling just right. This feels right now like this ball is just shaded by the environment. Already pretty realistic. And let's keep going with our main light. And it's a little bit fading away like this, but not too much. We still need to see a pretty strong terminator there. And finally, I want to add another lighting. It will be a big, soft, and pretty dark lighting from, I think maybe this side literally. Now let's make it a little bit from the front too. So this kind of direction, and I want it to be that warm color to balance out the coolness of everything else. Using very soft brush, maybe I would make the ambience even darker. So for now, this is like a white ball lit by our lighting. Next, I colorize this, so I'm adding a layer in Multiply and just using this color to filter out all the light reflected from the object to our eyes, the way a skin color would work. And on top of that, I'll add highlights. So I marked it in before, but really it should be not colorized by the skin. Also, it would have a certain like Fresnel reflection in there as well. And a little bit of that highlight from the big soft light source in here as well. And by the way, the reflection of the ambient light is literally just a Fresnel effect like this. So on the edges, our world gets a bit more reflected by the ball. And as you can see, we're we're getting a pretty realistic look. Just don't make this reflection too strong because you will just lose the details of the ball. And there you go, we have this nice reference ball going on. And I'll just go ahead and group it, put it like over here. And what'll happen next, I'll pretty much go ahead and analyze the shape that I want to be rendering and think about the directions of every little part on this object. So this is facing over there, this is over there, this is looking towards us like this, and all these planes, every single one of them will have a very specific direction. And what's interesting about our reference ball is that at every single point of the surface it has a different color. It never really repeats. And so we simply translate this to this. Now, I don't usually draw all of that to guide myself through the rendering process, but this is what I keep in mind. This ball is what I have in my head all the time. Whenever I make a brush stroke with a new color, I think about the angle of the surface where that stroke will be. And there you go, this is pretty much the way it would work, with maybe paying attention to a few extra details here and there. And of course you should think through such things as skin translucency, so maybe if I'll go into further details, I'll make a bit more saturated gradients here and there. At a certain point, I added a little bit of the multiply layer with a bright pink color like this to make the whole skin look a bit more red. That way I got the color for the lips and the ears. And for the eyeballs, I just eyeballed it to get the white version of that color. And as you can see, you don't need any outlines because this is a head. It never has flat areas. It always changes angles. So you never need any outlines to differentiate between those angles. You can simply go ahead and shade it according to those angles. And after all, this is just all about adding tiny things like maybe some reflections on the eyeballs, maybe more of that translucency here and there. But those are the little details that we all know about, while this is the fundamental thing that you really should nail down before moving any further. And I think the shading reference ball is gonna help you a ton with that. Bye!